RUNGHOLT. What if I told you there was a medieval city so rich, so arrogant and so badly located that it got yeeted off the map by the North Sea? Then people forgot about it and spent the next few centuries thinking it was all a myth. Today we're going to discover the soggy legend of RUNGHOLT, Germany's very own Atlantis. We'll explore how it rose, how it sank, and how a funeral for pigs may have triggered some godlike divine wrath, and how it thought that it could outwit the sea before quickly learning that it could not. Hello again, beautiful people. I am AncientSwan, and welcome to another thrilling episode of how humanity repeatedly ignored obvious warnings from nature. So buckle up, buttercups, because there is literally no time to waste. So let's get right into it. And go! Let's talk about the North Frisian coast in modern-day Germany. Today, it's got a handful of islands. But back in the day, it had more than a wee handful, it had hundreds. Because medieval Germans once looked at a marshy coastline and thought, yes, this is where civilization should thrive. Unfortunately for them, though, Mother Nature thought otherwise, as she decided to audit humanity's coastal planning in an event that would change the coastline of northern Europe forever. On 16th of January of the year 1362, Mother Nature decided to remind mankind once again not to get too comfortable. The event was called the Grote Mandrenke, meaning the Great Drowning of Men. An incredibly apt name when you take into account the sheer amount of people who spent the rest of their lives being extremely wet. The Grote Mandrenke was an extratropical cyclone that coincided with a full moon and high tides to create the ultimate tag team of destruction. This cyclone and tsunami of floods swept across the British Isles, northern Germany, Denmark and Netherlands, and left behind it a trail of destruction few people are ever unlucky enough to witness. The North Sea surged inland like it had a personal vendetta. Old islands shattered and disappeared beneath the waves, while parts of the mainland split off and became entirely new islands. Entire towns and cities were erased in a geological blink of an eye. One day they were there, the next day they weren't. It is estimated that around 25,000 people were killed in this catastrophic event, and among those casualties was the island of Strand, home to the tragically overconfident trading port of RUNGHOLT. Up until this point, RUNGHOLT had been a bustling hub of commerce, agriculture, and questionable decision-making. It sat on a peat bog, which is basically nature's way of saying, do not build here. But the locals, ever the optimists, drained it, built dikes, and said, we've got this. They did not, in fact, have this. RUNGHOLT was part of the Ebenschade district, a region of marshland settlements that had been painstakingly reclaimed from the sea using dikes and drainage systems. The town itself was extremely wealthy thanks to trade, livestock and salt production, and its residents were known for their prosperity and, allegedly, their pride. Think of this place as the medieval version of a gated community built on a sandcastle. Enter the Grote Mandrenke, or the Big Wet Surprise of 1362. The sea rolled in, and RUNGHOLT was wiped off the map. Not metaphorically, but literally, gone, submerged like Atlantis, but with more pigs and fewer philosophers. Speaking of pigs, legend says the townsfolk were so debauched, they once asked a priest to perform last rites on a pig. The priest, understandably fed up with this porky blasphemy, prayed for divine punishment. And lo, the sea obliged. Whether or not that story is true, it's been passed down for centuries as a cautionary tale about hubris, hedonism, and the dangers of mixing livestock with liturgy. Now let me take a wee second out to remind you that if you are or plan on enjoying anything we're doing in this video today, then please also do like and subscribe. Mother Nature has told me that it helps the channel, and who the hell am I to call her a liar? The destruction and disappearance of RUNGHOLT happened so long ago that it eventually entered into myth. Over time, people stopped believing it had ever existed. However, today it is widely accepted that the story of RUNGHOLT's disappearance is more than just legend. It has now become known as the Atlantis of the North Sea, a nickname that sounds romantic until you remember it's based on mass death and catastrophic urban planning. In the 20th and 21st centuries, researchers began poking around the Wadden Sea mudflats, armed with magnetometers, drones, and the kind of optimism that only comes from tenure and an all-expenses-paid work expedition. And in 2023, they struck gold, or rather they struck soggy medieval infrastructure. They found remnants of drainage systems, harbour structures, and the foundations of a large church, likely the central place of worship in RUNGHOLT. These discoveries confirmed that RUNGHOLT wasn't just a legend, it was a real thriving town that met a very wet end. The site is only accessible during low tide, and researchers have to work fast before the sea swallows it back up. It's like archaeology meets speed dating. And here's the kicker, RUNGHOLT wasn't even the only casualty. The entire island of Strand was eventually broken apart by later floods, including the Burchardie flood of 1634, which finished the job the Grotemandrenke started and killed another 15,000 innocent people on its way. What's left of the area today are mere fragments of the land that once existed here. Nordstrand, Pellworm, and the Halligan Islands, scattered like breadcrumbs across the Wadden Sea. So, what can we learn from RUNGHOLT? First, don't build your city on a peat bog. Second, maybe don't mock the clergy with barnyard rituals. And third, when the sea starts rising, don't assume your dikes are smarter than the moon. RUNGHOLT's story is more than just a medieval disaster. It's a reminder of how climate, arrogance, and poor planning can combine into a perfect storm, literally. It's also a testament to how legends can hold grains of truth, buried beneath centuries of mud and myth. So, dear viewers, next time you're tempted to build your dream home on a floodplain, remember RUNGHOLT, and maybe don't piss off the local priest with pig-based sacrilege. And that, boys and girls, is that. And don't forget, every time you don't like and subscribe, my wife adds a little extra poison to my soup. So do the right thing. Save a swan, click the button, and finally, it behooves me to remind you of the thing you shouldn't forget. And that is to remember the names of planet Earth's greatest Patreons, who we still be calling Malichi I, Thaddeus A, George H, DD, Anthony T, David R, and Stephen, without whom life would be worthless. And that's all from me for now. I'll be back soon. Please do join us when we do. In the meantime, I'm off. Peace, love, and RUNGHOLT. Goodbye. I love you more than I love my mother-in-law.